It's time to get our comic book retrospective on. This week we're going to Marvel Premiere number 10. We haven't really covered Doctor Strange very much. This is a very important comic book. Not only do you get the first appearance of Shuma Gorath, but you also get the ascension of Doctor Strange to Sorcerer Supreme. And here to talk with me about that is award-winning comic book editor, writer Joe Corella. How you doing, Joe?
I'm all right, Wes. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. We've also got the voice of the voiceless, the man so cool they call him the Breed, the comic book hoarder himself, Eric Breed. How you doing?
Doing well.
So this is a fantastic issue. We do a lot of Steve Englehart here, Joe, but I think this is our first time doing a comic book illustrated by Frank Brunner. And I'm going to tell you, this bad boy, this is some pretty cutting-edge stuff. Like, this is well ahead of its time.
Yeah, it's crazy. You know, we've gone this long not bringing up Frank Brunner. He's incredible. And what people here, despite all the comics he's done, you know, he's also dabbled in, you know, Conan, doing covers for comics like, you know, Savage Sword of Conan, Red Sonja, did some stuff over at Heavy Metal, but he was the lead character designer for the X-Men animated series. So a lot of people, you know, watching this might know his work best from that 90s X-Men cartoon doing the character designs.
I can tell you this, if my uncles had this comic book in the 70s when they were all doing shrooms and on acid, they would have loved it because this thing is an absolute trip. He does not hold back on the art, and Steve Englehart gives him a script to really chew on because there are so many things. They're working on so many different levels of realms and different alternate realities here, Breed. Fantastic stuff. Were you always on the Doctor Strange bandwagon, or did you get to it late to the party?
No, I discovered Doctor Strange about 2 months after I started collecting because he crossed over with Tomb of Dracula. And I was a horror fan as a kid, so I got that issue and was a fan ever since.
Well, there are definitely some horror aspects of this comic book. Marvel Premiere number 10, entitled Finally Shuma Gorath. This character had been hinted at. We finally saw it physically, or him physically appear in here. Steve Englehart, Frank Brunner, as we mentioned. And it starts out, Joe, and we see the Ancient One, the mentor of Doctor Strange, is on the ground. He's in a coma. And it turns out Shuma Gorath is essentially like feeding in on his life energy, and he's called in Doctor Strange to handle it. But he hasn't told Doctor Strange what he needs to do. And Strange has never experienced anything like Shuma Gorath.
Oh, yeah. No, Shuma Gorath is going to use, he's basically this like negative form of the Ancient One. I mean, it seems like he could just destroy anything and do anything he wants with all the Ancient One's power. You know, Doctor Strange is like struggling to figure out what to do while saying all sorts of insane catchphrases that you hear from Doctor Strange throughout, which are hilarious. Also, I'll point out the inks here are by the Krusty Bunkers. Breen and I were actually on Yule's show, Fantastic Comics, when we were talking about Neil Adams, and this was his studio. It was the pen name they would use. I think Ernie Chan was the actual inker for this one, but they just used Krusty Bunkers overall, and whoever was available would do the inks from that Neil studio continuity.
Absolutely looks fantastic. So, Breed, we see this in Doctor Strange is overwhelmed. He's not the Sorcerer Supreme yet. He does not know what he's supposed to do, but he knows that the Ancient One called him in for a reason. If he called me in to handle this, he must have thought that I could destroy Shuma Gorath. But every incantation that he uses, everything that he tries to do is thwarted almost immediately. And he decides he's going to do something crazy, something almost beyond his capability. He's going to take the Eye of Agamotto and elevate it. It's going to come off of the medallion, and he's going to do something. And essentially, I guess he shrinks himself in and goes inside the brain of the Ancient One. And we get some really trippy stuff here, Breed.
Yeah. Because I said, Shuma Gorath was basically, like I said, the dark side of the Ancient One. He's the other half of that coin. But yeah, so he shrinks down Hank Pym style and goes into the Vision. I mean, the Ancient One carried the battle there while some of these other weird-looking living Buddha types are causing all kinds of craziness outside.
It turns out that the Ancient One, he's in a coma, and he's somewhat there, but he cannot fight off Shuma Gorath. And Shuma Gorath is really using everything that the Ancient One knows about Steve kind of against him. We see Dormammu appear. Doctor Strange eventually figures out that it's not actually Dormammu. It's actually Shuma Gorath kind of making Dormammu appear and using his weaknesses against him. He kind of sees what the Ancient One sees in himself. He sees like the way that the Ancient One sees him. And we just kind of see Shuma Gorath use all this history and knowledge that the Ancient One has about Doctor Strange against him.
Also, for you continuity fans out there, I love the special note they have to Dormammu diggers. Don't dare miss the real Lord of the Dark Dimension in both Avengers and Defenders, now on sale, which we've covered here on the channel, the Avengers Defenders War, which is going on around this time. And we also get to see, as he continues, Nightmare, who was Doctor Strange's first villain to make an appearance in his debut. So
yeah, he learned quick. Do not say the names of villains that you think could beat you up, because Shuma Gorath is just going to make them appear. They're going to start attacking you as you're inside the mind of the Ancient One.
They play it really nice. He does the whole thing like it's like a nightmare, and then Nightmare shows it. It's great.
But you kind of like the way he says, I know it's not the real Dormammu, because he wouldn't cede superiority to anyone.
Yeah.
So
he never would have conceded that I beat him. So it can't actually be him. But we see the living Buddhas in there as well. Mm-hmm. And they're kind of going after him as Doctor Strange is trying to figure out what to do. He knows he's there for a reason, but he's just getting thwarted in every single turn that he takes. And he finally has an epiphany, Breed, a moment of realization. He needs to kill the Ancient One, because if Shuma Gorath eventually feeds on all that's left of the Ancient One, he'll be unstoppable.
The dilemma that works on two fronts. As a sorcerer, he's pledged to never take life. Also, as a surgeon, he was there to preserve life at all costs. So how can he not only commit murder, but kill the person who is responsible for everything he's become, but he knows he has to do it. And then he finds out that the Ancient One has been starving himself, I guess, both physically and mentally, to make it possible for him to do that.
Yeah, he's been weakening himself this whole time. So he's traveling through. It starts out in his brain, but he really kind of ends up in his spirit. At one point, it looks like he's falling off the edge of something to some other type of level of being that is within the Ancient One. And he finally finds his ego, and he pierces his ego, and he actually finds the Ancient One is in there still. He's still in control of his faculties, at least a little bit, and he's at peace with himself. And he kind of gives him the okay and tells him, yes, this is what you need to do.
Can't overlook the reveal of the true form of Shuma Gorath, which is a very slimy looking beast for something that wasn't drawn by Sal Buscema.
Yeah, there's no spittle.
Yeah, no, but you get like the tentacles in some of the panels, and you see like the drippings and stuff like that. It's pretty gross.
He kind of snuffs the life out of his mentor, which he definitely didn't want to do, but he had to do, and he thought he was going to kind of maybe die during all of this as well, Breed. But it kind of comes to this big culmination, and he finds himself outside of the body of the Ancient One. He's exactly how he left him, but now he has no pulse. Obviously, Stephen Strange being a doctor, he would be able to recognize that immediately. And life has left him. And then the beings that were being controlled by Shuma Gorath and the creatures that were welcoming him coming into this realm are all like, oh my goodness, the plan's been thwarted. He's not going to be able to make it. So he has won, but it's come at a significant price.
He's won, and he's trying to figure out, how do I live with myself from what I've done? Enter the talking tree. Also, because now the Ancient One is at one with everything. And even he says, I didn't know that was coming, but I said, I'm now, like I said, because he goes, he's in the tree, then he's in the water, because he's everywhere. And that's when he tells Doctor Strange, he goes, I've got larger concerns now. I'm going to take the power that I had and give it to you, because basically you're not qualified to be Earth's Sorcerer Supreme.
And he doesn't think he should have the job, Joe. He doesn't think he knows enough. But the Ancient One's like, listen, you're willing to do what it takes to save the world. You're willing to do something that was a difficult decision. Not everybody has it in to do that. That's why I know you are the one that should be chosen to be the Sorcerer Supreme of Earth, and that is how he gets the title. And he has ascended. Not only has the Ancient One ascended to a new level of being where he's dealing with other things, but now Doctor Strange is the Sorcerer Supreme, and he's the lead character, the lead hero that can deal with magic within the 616.
Yeah, no, it's set up perfectly here, and also it's pretty quick, but that is actually the death of the living Buddha that we see. When the stones start collapsing, he falls over. Like that's it for the living Buddha. It's
no way to go.
No longer aptly named.
Yeah, now he's just the Buddha.
Yes.
The dying Buddha.
but no, I would say by the Vipers of Valtor, this is a great time.
By the hoary hosts of Hoggith, I agree.
Shuma Gorath definitely has his own cadence. He's got his own style of speaking that definitely separates him from the rest of the thing. He feels like an outsider and stuff like that. But this is not the final time that we'll see Shuma Gorath. In fact, it felt like we were going to see Shuma Gorath in that Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness thing, but they never named the character. Well, I think they do, but they don't call him Shuma Gorath. And it was just it was a big dick tease, man. I ended up having blue balls when I saw that show. Yeah,
no, it's a shame, especially because the character isn't just this like flailing monster, like in the movie. Like clearly, from reading this is a calculating ancient god, like Lovecraftian kind of villain.
So very exciting stuff, and obviously Doctor Strange ends up being one of the most powerful heroes in all the Marvel comics. Eric.
Yeah, and this is just a taste. This went on a couple more issues and then spun off into his own series. We're about 12 issues in. The world literally comes to an end, and he has to recreate it, and he's the only one that knows. And as far as I know, that's still canon. But I said so. You got some big stakes in these Doctor Strange stories. Probably more so than in any other Marvel title. Because I said his rogues gallery is literally eternity.
I'll give it this. Obviously we've reviewed a lot of Marvel comics kind of in this era, and Doctor Strange definitely feels as disconnected. Like the universe that he's dealing with is kind of almost feels so much more vast and dangerous than really a lot of the other heroes we're dealing with. Now in modern Marvel, they've incorporated Doctor Strange into what's happening so much with the Avengers and stuff. You almost miss it. You're like, I wish Doctor Strange was really only dealing with stuff that was on the mystical realm, and not dealing stuff that maybe an Iron Man could take care of.
You had him doing this stuff in his book, but he was also the leader of the Defenders. So that kept him tethered to the rest of the Marvel universe. But they did a pretty good job of what he would get involved with, staying true to his character while also being in a position to be of use, more large. And I think the Avengers Defenders War that we covered kind of, fit that, because it was his enemy, because Loki was pretty useless in that story. So, I said he was definitely a heavy hitter. And I think that's something, unfortunately, that modern Marvel has completely lost sight of.
Definitely. He feels like a completely different character. Obviously, the retrospective must go on. Next week, we're going to go over to DC Comics. Joe, you've chosen DC Comics Presents Annual Number 3. We're going to see a Superman Shazam team up.
Yeah, and they're going to be taking on Shazam's first nemesis, Dr. Sivana.
Now that sounds hot. I cannot wait for that one. That should be a lot of fun. We'll be here next weekend for that one. As the fellas mentioned, we did review Avengers Defenders War, and Loki plays a big part in it. If you haven't seen this comic book retrospective, we do the entire storyline. We don't only do one issue. We cover the entire damn thing. It's fantastic. It's a lot of fun. And Loki is a piece of crap, just like you would expect. Definitely check this one out.